All right, guys, a shorter video today, just kind of an update video. I had a lot of non-farm related things going today, and my day is not over. I still have some things to do. So just a quick update today, and let you know what's going on. All right, so the third load of broiler manure did show up last night. So this is the 3 triaxle loads. I didn't know it. The trucking company had him bring 2 loads right away for me, and then he hauled 2 loads of coal, and then his last run of the day was to pick up the final load. So that's what happened. That's kind of why I was wondering why it stopped all of a sudden. He did sink in a little bit, but nothing terrible. So I feel bad for the chicken farmer that I told him I could take all 50 tons. This is about 30 tons, so we left 20 behind. I'm glad he was able to find somebody to take the rest of that, so he didn't have to. He's not allowed. The day that he cleans out the pens is basically the day he's getting a new flock of chicks. It's a real close time frame for him. So when he has to get the manure out, it's pretty well timed to rotate the house. That's how close the schedule is. So he's not allowed to pile up the manure, so it has to almost leave that day or the next day. And he's got a very quick way to load people with conveyor system, but again, he cannot have manure sitting on the farm on piles for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the government regulations again, but the pile's steaming a little bit, so I'm gonna let this cook out of here in case there's any weed seeds or anything like that. But the rest of it did show up, so no problems there. I did make plans. It'll be another 6 weeks now, and he'll have some more, so probably the end of January, and by then the ground should be frozen. I've already talked to the same trucking company about getting like a 48-foot tractor trailer they have with a hydraulic ram to push it out. So that's how we're going to do it next time. I will be able to take the full 50 tons, and he can come back here and basically turn around in the whole field. So shouldn't get stuck, hopefully, and we shouldn't have any issues. So we'll just have another pile next to this one. Granted, it's only 30 tons. What I'm allowed to put down the 2 ton to the acre. This is only 15 acres worth right here, so I'm glad it's here. It's 15 more acres that I could do that I didn't have it before, but anyway, it's just the way it is. All right, so another thing I want to take note of, as of today, PA Farms is at 4,999 subscribers. So by the time this video is up, I don't know if we'll hit the 5,000. We might. Again, thank you to everybody that watches, and I'm glad that you're sticking with me through my daily events here on the farm, daily things I have going on. Today is the last day of the rifle deer season, so after today, I do have some other things going on. Like I said, I want to push some brush out around the fence lines, and we can go make noise again. So like I said, I just want to respect their hunting season and give them the opportunity. There were some deer. I think there was only one here that was gotten on the farm. I know my dad got one over at his place and a couple more over there that other people got. So we're cleaning them up, but it's nowhere near the amount that you need. Like I say, in the spring I counted 35. My neighbor saw 40 in one herd, so I don't know. We may have to do something about it. So one last thing, the hay I did sell, I had said it was last year's. I'm very glad to be getting last year's hay out of there. I need the space up in the barn and need the room. And he came with a pickup truck, and he said he's going to be coming again very shortly with 2 pickup trucks. He wants to run the 2 pickup trucks and try to get as much hay out of the barn as possible. I want to show you guys one of the things I was talking about in my video of the barn at the other farm. I was saying about how the barn over there had a lot less structural issues than this one. This is a kind of one of the structural problems right here with the foundation. So you see this wall, this stone wall. I don't know if I showed this before, but they had this real heavy-duty cable in there, and it looks like the cable was rusting and freezing out, and it popped off this entire section of stone here. It might be a little dark to be on camera, but all this laying down here is basically the dirt and stone that was part of this wall that it just collapsed. So this is one difference between the two barns. The one over at Dad's place, there's nothing like this. And I think a lot of it is the water's coming in from up there and it's getting in the wall and freezing out and just destroying this wall. The only option I can see to fix it is, one, put some rain spouting on the barn, and two, fill in that low spot. There's a lot of dirt that should get hauled and built that ground up out there so it can go away instead of in, but I doubt that that'll be a option anytime soon. So that was one of the differences, and this video may be longer than I realized once I get talking. The other difference between this barn and over at Dad's, I've been telling you guys about these poles here, these metal poles that support the main beams all the way through. You can see they did stick some I-beam in there, but these poles, a lot of them are rotted off. They are totally deteriorated and they aren't supporting very much weight. They're just rusted away. And if you'll take notice to this one that they had fixed, they poured a cement block there to build it up, and then they had cut the pole off and then they put a plate underneath. That style there with the plate sitting on top of the concrete is exactly how it is over at Dad's on all of them. There are no poles over there cemented into the ground. So if you have cattle here and your cow, it's always going to be wet. That wet cow urine and stuff can go down in through the concrete, and then it sits there and rusts the poles out. So that wasn't the design. Like I say, that's how the poles are over at Dad's barn, and that's why none of the poles over there are rotten or got rotted off. So just a couple differences here, like I say, between the two barns. One of the major differences, this barn is correct. This is the way you run the stalls in a bank barn for a dairy farm. My grandfather did it totally different. He ran the stalls this way, from the back wall out, and then he put his addition on there. Most dairy farms that converted bank barns, they would open up the end wall and go that way with their addition, and the new part would be out there. So you had the longest run. For whatever reason, my grandfather decided to go out that way. One of the pros of that design was this whole wall. Most times on the bank barn, this wall is a wooden wall on this end as opposed to the stone wall on that end on a bank barn. So the wooden wall on his barn was totally removed, and it's all cement block. There was a foundation poured with a footer and the block, and this whole section of our barn over at Dad's has cement under it and cement block to help support the roof of the other end of the barn, and then the addition goes out that way. One of the biggest cons of his design was, well, this barn inside, it may be the same width as ours. They have 43 stalls in this barn, whereas ours, even with the addition, could only house 27. So maximizing the space, this is the way to do it. But like I say, for whatever reason, he decided to go out that way. He had his calf pens on the side, he had heifers on the side, and he also had a maternity pen on the side that took up a lot of space, all in the same building. But anyway, just some of the differences between the two barns here. Just different design. They decided to go a different route. And as a result, our barn is in better shape because it has the cement. This whole wall is bowed out and pushing out. And it's one of the major problems with this barn structurally. If you stand at the end, you can see the big bow in it. Whereas Grandpa and his design, it's not. It's solid. It's straight. There's nothing bowing out. So, but like I say, this was more profitable for them back in the 60s and 70s, whereas my grandfather, he could only ever milk 27 cows versus 43. So, excuse me. All right, guys, I'm going to end it there. I want to thank you guys for watching. Once again, thank you for the 5,000, and I'll come back with you tomorrow.